Great, and we're recording. Welcome everyone to the State of Innovation Challenge Industry Engagement. I'm Julia Reed. I'm a senior consultant with Kinetic West, and I'm the State of Innovation project manager. And I'm really excited to be joined today by Wade Larson from Wagstaff Incorporated and Applied Technologies. Thanks for joining us, Wade.
You bet. You bet. Happy to be here.
Great. Well, can you tell us a little bit about your role? What do you do with Wagstaff, and what does Wagstaff do? I know they're based in Spokane and that they're an engineering and manufacturing firm, but can you share with the students and teachers kind of what Wagstaff does?
Sure. So my role is Director of Human Resources. So, I oversee the talent. No matter what the organization is, whether you're making stuff or providing services, you have people, right? People are at the core of every organization. And so regardless of how many buildings, how much equipment that you have, how much money you have, it takes people to make it run. And so my job is to make sure that we have the right people in the right places at the right time to make things happen. So that's my job. And then I have a great team to make sure that that works. So Wagstaff, regardless of what this, some people ask me, well, what's Wagstaff? Is it a dog walking company, right? Is it a staffing agency? And it's neither. It's neither. Wagstaff, that's actually the last name of the founders, right? It's a family-owned company. We're on our third generation. So it's 75 years old that we've been around. Very healthy, very vibrant. We're a manufacturing company over here in Eastern Washington. We're manufacturers in the aluminum casting equipment. And so we make really big things, right? Really big products for other companies that work within the aluminum industry. And so while, when you think of aluminum, just to kind of give you the quick primer, right? When you think of aluminum, when it comes out of it, right, it's a metal, it comes out of the ground. It actually doesn't come out of the ground as aluminum, right? In the shiny state, it comes out of the ground as bauxite. And so for it to come out, to move from bauxite into aluminum, it goes through some processes, and it takes really big machines to go through that process to turn into your aluminum cans, cars, trains, planes, whatever it is. We make the equipment that helps in that process. So we make really big stuff. So we make things so other people can make things.
Awesome. Yep. What are some of the favorites that, can you give us, what are some of the things that you guys make that is really cool?
Well, so our bread and butter, right, are ingots, ingot and billet tables, right? So ingots and billets, we'll explain what that is. So an ingot and a billet. A billet is a big round cylinder, right? If you can think about that, think about a big power pole, if you will, but it's made of aluminum. Okay, so when you think of aluminum, we have to transport it. We have to use it in a couple of different ways. So a billet, right, big old power pole, right, big old cylinder of aluminum. The reason why we use that, and they're in different sizes and different lengths, it's for extrusion. So you think of Play-Doh, right, and you think of that, and you kind of get the Play-Doh tools, and it squeezes out in different shapes, right? Well, those billets, they do the same thing, kind of soften it up, squeeze it out, and out comes like aluminum siding or aluminum sheets and stuff like that. So we make tables that make the billets, right? And the other type of product is an ingot. And so you think of like little ingots of gold, right? Gold ingots. Mm-hmm. But ours are bigger. They're really big, of aluminum. And these aluminum ingots can be, a few feet across, right, and 30 feet long.
Wow.
Anyway, the reason why you would use an ingot is for rolling mills, right? They roll the aluminum across, flatten it down so that you can have metal plates all the way down, all the way to be flat, to be aluminum foil. They just keep rolling it until it's super thin, super flat. And so anyway, to make billets and ingots, right, you pour it out of the furnace. It comes out of the furnace in molten form, and we pour it into these tables, right, to make these shapes, and they become these ingots and billets.
Oh,
and so as it comes out, we don't make the furnaces, but everything from the trough to the tables, it comes out, right, dumps into the table in molten aluminum, and out the bottom, it comes out in a hard shape, which is either a billet or an ingot. We make the tables, right? From the trough to the table. Comes in hot metal, right? Comes out as ingots and billets. we make the tables that do the ingots and the billets.
Awesome. And I think I was reading you guys have customers all over the world, right? You
Mhm.
make them here and in Kentucky,
Uh-huh.
but they go to customers worldwide. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct. In fact, about 3/4 of all of our business is international. In fact, when you think about Wagstaff, we like to believe that that we're well known here in the community. We're well known throughout the state as as an employer of choice, and that's our goal, is to be an employer of choice. But to be honest, our number one client here, our number one customer here in town in Spokane, is our employee,
Hmm.
because our closest customer. I mean, we do some business here with Kaiser every now and then, but it's been a while since we've done it with our neighbors next door. Really, I mean, our closest customer, regular customer, is several hundreds of miles away.
Wow.
So really, our closest customer, our customer, our regular customer here in town is our employee.
Interesting. So tell me more about that. What do you mean by employer of choice? And what are some of the roles that your employees fill at the company?
Yeah, you betcha. So, we have a lot of employees. So we have about 400 employees right now,
Wow.
and they're all over the world. So, most of them reside here in Spokane. About 350, and about 325 or so are here in Spokane, and we have another 50 that are over there in Kentucky. And so they have some different processes. We'll get to that in a minute here. So we have about 20 or so, 20, 25 they're scattered around the world, right? So we have international employees too. And so for if you're looking at our large group of employees, we have a large group of engineers. They're going to be designing all the things that we make. So the customer needs a product. Well, somebody's got to draw it up, right? Create the drawings. And so we have our engineers who are going to design it. And we also have mechanical designers to help draw it up too. So we have the engineers that do all the math, right? They're doing all the specifications. And we also have designers that are going to help to draw it, create these blueprints. So those are two very large group of employees. And then when you go out to put it out there into the shop floor to get it all made up, right? We have a lot of welders, we have a lot of machinists, a lot of technicians. We have a lot of those. Those are four big groups of employees. But we also have to keep the machines running. So we have a very large maintenance crew. We have very big machines. We have very specialized machines. These things are huge. When you say big, these things cost millions of dollars,
Hmm.
each machine. So big maintenance crew. We have people out there in shipping, a lot of shipping that takes place. We have a big assembly crew, because once people are welding and putting these things together, it takes a very technical group to assemble everything and make sure that everything is pieced together. You think about erector sets, or well, when people used to play with those Lego sets. These are really big Lego sets, right? They put them together
Hmm.
to have these finished products, and it takes very specialized skill set to put them all together. You have the administrative group, putting things together. I mean, we have a lot of people doing a lot of things. We have people in research and development that are just coming up with new stuff. We have people who are trying to figure out new metal alloys, right? Because aluminum's not just aluminum. When you think of aluminum, we have different things that go into the aluminum as well to make it stronger, to make it do different things. And people in R&D, we have engineers out there just making new stuff up, right? Coming up with some new ways to do this differently. So we have people doing all kinds of things all over the place, using science, using chemistry, metallurgy. I mean, we've got it all.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think a lot of people, when they think about manufacturing, they think it's like, oh, it's just, pressing out the same thing over and over. But there's a lot of innovation that goes into it.
There is, and in fact, when you think about it, even when we say welders and machinists, they think, well, a person who's welding, right? You just come in and you slap some metal together, and you kind of zip a weld around, and boom, there you go. That's all there is to it. And in fact, when we go out and we ask for welders to come in, right? When we have an opening for a welder, we have a lot of people who say, well, I grew up on a farm. I did some welding out there, so I'm qualified. Ours are fabricators, which means you have
Mm.
to look at a complex set of plans, look at blueprints, and be able to create this stuff. And this welding is very sophisticated. And so we require people to have a lot of schooling. So they need to go over to like SCC or NIC, North Idaho College, or here in Spokane Community College, get your years of your degree. have some years of experience and be able to come in, because you're going to be creating some new stuff. And we're going to ask you to problem solve. We're going to ask you to create some complex designs, because every single one of our designs is unique. It's not the same old stuff. It's not like an assembly line. You're going to build some new things every single time that the plans come in. That's why every engineer is going to redesign something different, and every plan is going to be different, because a manufacturer who's over in Bahrain is going to ask for something different than a manufacturer who's in China, who's going to be different than the person we're going to ship it to in Russia, who's going to be different than when we're going to ship it to in South Africa. And everyone's going to be a little bit different, because even though everything's ingots and billets, they're going to be just a little bit different.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Let's stay on that topic for a second. And I just want to say, I know we've got a couple folks watching. So if you have questions for Wade as we go along, feel free to put them in the chat. And I'll be happy to kind of share those in as we go through. But what are some of the kind of skills that you look for in an employee? I know you have a lot of different roles at your companies. There's probably different skills if it's an engineer or a manufacturer, but are there kind of general skills that you really want all of your employees to sort of have?
Sure. And, and I'll break it out, because there are, even within the groups, I mean, there's certain skill sets with some bodies, but let's talk about everybody in general.
Yeah.
The ability to problem solve. I mean, that's a big one. A lot of, and I see that a lot of folks struggle with this, because when you go to school, we study to the test, right? Don't teach me new stuff. Don't make me think about it. Just tell me what's on the test, and then let's walk through all the tests, and then that way I can go through and answer all the questions. Life doesn't work that way, right? All of life is a test, but it's a giant story problem.
Yeah.
We look for people who can use critical thinking, who can problem solve, because every single one of our situations, even though we've been doing this for 75 years, we're going to come up with some new and different things. I'll use an example. We do some things for the Department of Energy, right? We're doing some nuclear projects right now, and they have some very strict guidelines. But even once we get into it, and they've been doing some of this for years, we get some new problems. We're like, we haven't done this before. And in fact, nobody on earth has actually done this before. We're doing new and innovative things. And we look around, we're like, has anyone ever done this? No, we haven't. So we have to get a bunch of smart people together in a room and say, we got to figure this out, because we're not going to go back to the Department of Energy and say, nobody's ever done this before. We're going to say, we're going to figure this out. And so when we get together and we say, we're going to Wagstaff this, because that means we're going to problem solve this. We're going to do what nobody else has done, and we're going to do it better than anyone else. We're going to make it happen, because that's what we do. So problem solve. Critically think means that we're going to dive in and we're going to think through this. There are no excuses. To say I can't do this, that's not in our vocabulary. There's none of that. Hard work, that's huge. There's no whining. I mean, if you want to whine, we say go somewhere else, because we ain't got no time for that. But the whole concept of innovation, of coming up with something new. We don't care what the job is, whether you're in engineering, if you're in IT, if you're in administration, if you're in finance, if you're an administrative specialist, we don't care. We're looking for you to find a way to do things better, cheaper, and faster. We're all in this together, and so we're trying to find a way to get the company to do more and be better for our customers. And to be honest, we're all part of a profit sharing program. We all get bonuses at the end, and those bonuses are tied to how much profit that there is. And so the more profit we all make, the more we make. And you know what? The better that we can help problem solve, the fewer mistakes we make, and the better we can solve this, the more we all make. Yeah. So anyways, those are some examples of some of the things that we look for, no matter what position that you're in.
Awesome. So everybody's got a stake, it sounds like.
It is. So, I mean, we come up with some topics, right? So when we say we're going to Wagstaff this thing, it means we're going to jump in, we're going to problem solve this thing, we're going to make it work.
I love that you guys have your own verb. That's so cool. And you also, I know you started a program, or you're part of a program, because Wagstaff has a big role also in the education space. You're part of the STEM Education Alliance, which is sponsoring the State of Innovation Challenge. And then I know you started a manufacturing academy at Wagstaff. Can you tell me a little bit about how that works and what that is?
You bet, you bet. So every summer, so I mean, we were set to do our second one last summer, and then and we were right up until the last minute, and then
Uh,
had to,
yeah, it's a tough year.
we were gonna do it, and so help me. Anyway, we're gonna do it this year regardless, and even we'll be COVID friendly and everything, but we're gonna do it no matter what. So 2 years ago we set this thing up, a year and a half ago, I guess. So we had space for 20 kids to come in and do this. And so we decided to get 20 boys, 20 girls in there, high school juniors and incoming high school juniors and seniors. And we really wanted to give them an opportunity to get hands-on experience of the manufacturing and production environment. We can talk about it all day, but until you actually get your hands in there, you're just your hands dirty on it, you're not going to know it. And so we wanted to set up a full experience where you could just do a deep dive and get to know it, feel it, not just book read it, but experience it. So we came up with this 4-week experience, and it's a 40-hour a week, 4-week experience. So it is like going to work for these 4 weeks. So during these 4 weeks, these 20 people, right, come in, you're part of a team. We teach you how to set up a business, and they set up their own little entities. They had to learn how to design products, come up with products. How are they going to sell these products? What products are they going to put together? How are we going to design it? How are we going to make these things? They had to make all these decisions up. And as a team, they had to problem solve. They had to come up with strategies. They had to come up with how are we going to create these things? And then we put them in place to create the materials, right? Let's get the materials out there, and they actually had to build these things, and we put them as though they were a real company, and they had to sell these things. So they had to design it, make it, sell it, do it. As part of our philosophy, we also recognize that we can't employ everybody, but it's also a small environment over here. So as a manufacturing group, we hire each other's employees all the time, and we can't solve the problem ourselves. So I got together with our partners, with a lot of our partners, Kaiser Aluminum's over here, with Alltech, with McKay Manufacturing, with there's a bunch of them over here that where we all came together and said, you know what, let's join forces. So while we took the lead, I grabbed some others, and they helped to fund it. They helped to work through this. So as they're going through this process, we also took them out there to see how manufacturing was done in other locations, to get that experience. So, my partners helped me out. They helped teach them how things were done. And as they go through this experience, right, we got them into the shop. And so they learned how to build these things, and I gave them quotas, right? They all had to build and manufacture like 25 of whatever their product was. So somebody had to build birdhouses, someone had to build like cornhole games, someone had to build, cutting boards. It was like that. And then we changed it up on them too, right? Just like a regular workplace, new orders had to come in. We had to increase production, and, it was up to them to figure out how to sell it. But they made it, they sold it. They were very successful. And in the end, we had, all 20 were very successful with their opportunity to design, make, produce, sell the whole thing. Now, because, they were there working for us, we also gave them a $2,000 stipend at the end for those who saw the whole thing through, and, all 20 of them did it. So it was very, very fun, very effective, but they were able to have a hands-on experience of what it's like to come in, and they each got a chance to lead. They all got a chance to manage. They all get a chance to produce, to design, to engineer, to really have a hands-on experience. We did take over a shop of a local high school to be our manufacturing environment. But really, it was a great opportunity, a great experience to give everybody a manufacturing and production experience.
That's awesome. If you're in the Spokane area and you're watching this, definitely check that out. That sounds like a really cool program.
Yep. So, the 20 who were set to come this last summer, and it was the first year that we did it, we had 20 did it. We had 70 people apply. We had space for 20. This last year, we had like 150 applicants.
Wow.
Yeah. So we picked 20, and then it's like, oh, sorry, guys, we couldn't do it because of COVID. So whoever was an incoming junior that was selected, we're just going to automatically let them go into this next summer. Right. So
nice.
We're going to have space for like 10.
Well, maybe it'll continue to grow, and who knows, it could spread to other areas. It sounds like a model. It's a lot like State of Innovation Challenge, really. It's about letting young people use their own innovation and ideas to kind of power solutions to problems.
Mhm. And it is, we put them into some critical points. We threw some curveballs at them. It was great. But it's not unlike regular manufacturing where, you have some supply issues, you have some quality issues, you have some real life situations that they had to work through. And we, as the mentors, we didn't solve it for them. They had to figure stuff out. And
Yeah.
it was a live situation. But, we put them into other situations. We let them, we had a welding day. I mean, Kaiser Aluminum came over, and between them and Wagstaff, we give them a whole day of just welding. Here you go, let's weld. And it was some cool stuff.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned that you took over a high school shop. What are some of the, if project is largely aimed at kind of middle schoolers and high schoolers, and what are some of the classes that you think people should take if they want to come work at a place like Wagstaff? Do you have to take shop? Are there other things that you think would be useful? Like if you were talking to a high school student, for example, it's like, wow, I really want to come and work at Wagstaff one day. What would your advice to them be?
Well, I've got a few tracks, right? Here are a few opportunities for you. And the question becomes, what's your interest? Because there are multiple ways to get there. I mean, we have this engineering track, we have this trades version here. If you go to high school, a lot of the career counselors, bless their hearts, I love them, but we still are hearing way too often of go get your 4-year degree. And I'm here to tell you, you do not need a 4-year degree to be successful. If you want the 4-year degree, go get it. Look, I got stuff up there on the wall that says
I see those.
I couldn't, I couldn't figure it out, so they had to keep sending me back to school, right? But I'm here to tell you that the guys who didn't go to school or didn't go to the 4-year track, they're smarter than me because they'd have a whole lot less debt, and they're still making about as much as I do. But that's it, right? So you get a 2-year degree, right? You go get a 2-year certificate. You're coming out of 2 years of a welding program, right? Minimal debt, if even any debt, because I got to tell you, we're sponsoring scholarships. SEC has these scholarships. Spokane Valley Chamber has a bunch of scholarships. There's scholarships everywhere to go get a machining degree, your welding certificate, your welding degree, right? You go in, you get a 2-year degree with no debt or little debt. You come out, you're going to be making $40,000 to $45,000 a year debt free with full benefits. That's before overtime. With overtime, so I'm 20 years old, right? So first of all, I'll come back to this. I'll get back on track here in a sec. But
Take your time.
but let's say I graduate from high school at the traditional age of 18. I go to school for 2 years. I come out. I'm 20, and I'm making $45,000 a year before overtime. I'm going to make $10,000 with overtime, right? I get my benefits. That's $55,000 a year with benefits at age 20. I'm sorry, and then it just goes up from there. With no debt, I'm sorry, but go ahead and talk to the people who are taking the 4-year program in communications. They're going to be making $35,000 a year out of college, and they're going to have $60,000 in debt. So, just saying. The engineers, sure. I mean, they'll have 5 years in college, and they'll have $100,000 in debt. But weigh it out. But they'll also be starting off at $60,000 a year, right? And they'll trajectory up. Mechanical designers, they'll go into a 2-year program at SCC or somewhere else, and they'll come out probably about in the upper 30s, about 40,000, starting off in about 30,000, 35,000 in the upper 30s. But they'll have some opportunities there as mechanical designers, and they make a good living there. Anyway, so where I'm going with that is you don't have to go get a 4-year degree to start into this. If I were doing this, here's what I've got. So 2 years ago, there were a bunch of us that pushed through the legislature this opportunity for running start in the trades. And so, while we've had running start for years for the other programs, what this means is that programs like SCC, there's a handful of colleges that have been aggressive with this, and we've moved ahead. And so, SCC here with Kevin Brockbank is the president and their programs, we aligned it so that high school students can start to take welding programs, machining programs in high school. Under these programs, you can graduate from high school with your high school diploma and your associate's degree and walk out of there with your trades program, and you walk into a job at age 18 as a welder and as a machinist or automotive technician, whatever in these trades programs,
Yeah.
mechanical designer, you take your pick. It's debt free. Debt free. I'm 18. I'm walking into a $40,000 to $45,000 a year job. Wow. Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
So anyway, that's where I'm going. We have other alternatives. You've got the technical high schools that are all around, and they're a little bit less convenient than they were when we used to have shop classes in high school. But you have technical high schools that are available if you're interested in engineering, in the trades, automotive, whatever. They're around in most major cities. And if you're not in a major city, if you're in a rural area, I mean, take a look and see what's available. They may have some alternatives that are available to you. But to be honest, man, if you're in high school and you're saying, hey, I have some interest, I'd like to go here, start exploring and start asking the questions and look around, because there are opportunities all over the place to get you started and get you launched faster.
Awesome. Yeah. And I want to take a second to shout out to the Washington State Opportunity Scholarship, which is linked on our website, which also now has a 2-year and a trades portion of it. So if you're interested in that, there's more information on some of those post-secondary pathways on our website. There's career launch programs in high school as well, where you can be going to school and getting paid work experience. So there's a lot out there. And I definitely echo that with Wade, that there's so many pathways that you can explore depending on kind of what your interest is and your area.
We've been partnering with Career Connected Learning through a lot of this. We've been partnering with AWB, to get that legislation pushed through, to get that dual credit, that Running Start program aligned. It creates some flexibility. It doesn't specifically say, okay, you're going to have this dual credit program, but what it does is it creates the flexibility. So forward-thinking community colleges like SEC, they can do it, and they have done it. And so, this year, even despite COVID, SEC went ahead and they said, you know what, let's do it. And they have plenty of on-ground, on-campus programs that are working for high school kids. So,
awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the challenge case, but before I get that, I'd love to just kind of hear a little bit more from you, Wade, specifically. How did you get involved in this work? Did you start off, was it the engineering manufacturing portion, or did you start off in HR? How did you get engaged?
I've always been, so I've been in HR for 25 years, right? I mean, that's my background. And so I've been at Wagstaff. I've been at Wagstaff for about 5 years. And so my background is a mix of private sector, public sector, and consulting. So, in terms of consulting, I've done work for or worked with probably somewhere between 250 to 300 different companies.
Wow.
Right? I mean, all over the place. And with my experience in public sector, it helps me to understand the relationship, between communities, community engagement, and the relationships there. My background in private sector also helps me to understand we can't solve this problem by ourselves. And also, we can't be thinking in terms of the next 90 days. We have to be thinking ahead. And while today you're saying, well, hey, look at all this high unemployment. We obviously are going to have these bodies out there available for work. No, we don't. Because the people who are unemployed, tough spot out there, but those aren't the people who we need. The people who we need actually have jobs, and they're in jobs right now. And looking in the future, we are in a tough spot, because for the last 20 years, we've been telling people to go to four-year college. And we've been telling people, you really don't want to go into the trades, because those are really kind of bad jobs. They're ugly jobs. They're terrible. They're dirty jobs. When in fact, they're great jobs. They're fantastic jobs. And you even think about welding, machining, they're not dirty jobs at all. In fact, they're very highly technical jobs. You get to work with computers all day. Have you seen welding lately? I mean, MIG and TIG welding. These guys have to work with these computer consoles that are insane, right? These guys are doing some very highly skilled, high-tech stuff. Machinists, if you look at this computer console for machinists, I mean, this thing looks incredible what they're working with. Anyway, I digress. Back to your question. Where'd I go? anyway, I recognize the need to work with the community and the engagement there. So I'm a big advocate there, but also looking ahead and saying, hey, where does this come from? I may not need workers today, but I'm going to need them tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And this problem that we have with this, where are we going to get our workers? We got to start developing people for the next generation. So
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, I'm trying to prepare and recruit anybody who's in kindergarten on up.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. Is the way that we can do that is to help start to educate, influence, and work with anybody who's basically in school right now, coming forward. And so, when I take a look at this, at the comments here, for example, the biggest challenge we face is math skills. Hey, I get that, right? Coming up to speed. Well, where do we go with the math skills? I mean, we're teaching to the test, right? And so let's go with whatever else. And again, I'm not knocking the educators, because the educators have a tough job, right?
Yeah.
Because they're changing regulations and legislation left and right, and so they're being handed this here. Here's the new regulations in these 5 minutes that you have to teach to, and the teachers are not given the latitude to teach the way they want or what they want. And so here's what the standards are changing, and we're going like this, chasing our tail, saying, hey, you have to teach to keep up to that standard, that standard, that standard. We've been missing it over here, saying, you know what, it'd be cool if we kept some common sense and was really able to let us, keep our standard and being able to do what we need to do. So what we're trying to do is being able to influence, as we talk to folks with K-12, and this goes back to the question, but as we start to engage, and we're working on the CTE boards here locally, and we work with the local school districts, and I asked the question, so when was the last time that we actually talked to each other, business and education? It's like, we really don't talk anymore for whatever reason. It's like time to engage, and we've built a great working relationship over the last few years, especially. But it's like it's time to engage. It's time to talk, so that what you're teaching at school is what we really need in business, instead of saying, "Hell, you're going to teach this, and we're going to hope for the best." Yeah, time to change the discussion.
That totally makes sense. Well, speaking of common sense, I thought we'd talk a little bit about how COVID-19 has impacted your work. And this is kind of reaching back to our challenge case. So one of the case questions that we've set for students is to think about not just what's going on now, because like you said, it's sort of like where we are now is where we are now, but thinking about, what is to come and how will we prepare and how will we manage, what are the lessons that we've learned from this experience that will make us more resilient and able to kind of sustain these operations in the future. So a lot of people are working from home now, as you can probably tell. I'm working from home, but the stuff you guys do at Wagstaff is not something you're not going to be able to make an ingot at home. You got to be on the manufacturing floor. So how has COVID impacted your operations, and are you guys doing anything differently to try to help keep people safe and healthy while they're, so that they can keep coming to work, they can keep doing this important work? Because like you said, aluminum is in a lot of things that we use every day. It's a very important product. It's a very important export for the country. So how have you guys been impacted, and what are some of the changes or things you're thinking about now that you weren't having to deal with before?
Yeah, that's a whole lot of question right there.
Take one by one.
Well, it's a moving target too, right? Because I mean, we've had 10 or 11 months of change.
Right.
And that changes. I mean, every 5 minutes, the rules change. And in my role in human resources, I mean, we're crafting actual policy that changes sometimes every couple of days. And communicating that out to employees. And they're like, well, wait a second, I thought it was this. Well, it was. Today, it's something different.
Yeah.
When this first hit, right? And if you remember, hey, the anticipation builds, hey, we think that something is coming our way, but we're not quite sure. And it's like, it's just a common cold. Well, we think it's a different strain of common cold. Well, it's not that bad. All of a sudden, opinions start to hit, right? Opinions start to get in there. Now, all of a sudden, it becomes political. Well, then we're over here. We're in Spokane. So we have Idaho and we have Washington, right? And then we start to see the mix. Well, nobody can tell us that we have to wear a mask. But hey, nobody can tell us that we can't wear a mask. and you start to see this because we employ, about a third of our employees come from Idaho, then two-thirds are in Washington. Well, all of a sudden we start to see this stance, right? Red state, blue state. We start to see all of a sudden it's not a
Yeah,
disease.
different rules in each state, different levels of mixing, etc.
And then we start to see the age situation. Well, wait a second, this is more for age. So it's not just a safety issue. It becomes a political, socioeconomic scenario too. So then as the Fed, as the CDC starts to step in, the state of Washington starts to step in. Oh my goodness, we're shut down. Are we not shut down? Well, what's our contingency, right? If it shuts down, where are we going to be? Are we going to just say, forget it? Well, in the manufacturing world, we are producing some things for the department, for the federal government or those federal agencies. And so, we are in a situation where we're an essential business. And so we decided early on, number one, we're not shutting down. Well, are we waiting for somebody to tell us? Well, things are changing so fast. There's nobody that comes out to tell you that you're essential. So, you had to make some decisions. You had to call the ball and you had to take some risks. Well, what happens if you're not? Well, who's to tell us that we're not? Well, who's to tell you that you are? Don't know. We're going to do it anyway. All right. So that's decision number one. We're staying open. All right. Well, I've got employees who are mad because we are staying open, and I've got some employees who are mad because we aren't. All right. Decision number two, we got to send some people home because we have to thin the herd, right? And to your point, you can't throw a CNC machine in the back of your truck and take it home.
Right.
Who stays and who goes? We had to start making some decisions. Anyone over this age, going home. I don't care. Gone. All of a sudden we had 20% of our workforce gone. Well, before that, understand, I was pushing for, we had parking issues because we were running out of space because we were growing really fast. And I was like, we should start sending some of these white collar workers home to work from home. And I was told very specifically over the course of 2 to 3 years that I was pushing for this, we don't work at home. We just can't work from home. We're not set up to work from home. Well, I've been consulting for 25 years. I'm like, give me a corner table and Wi-Fi and a laptop. I can do fine.
Right.
To that date, we do not work from home. And you know what? In 24 hours, we had 20% of our workforce working from home. But we don't have enough laptops. Grab your tower, grab your monitors, and go home. And we were working from home. So anyway, where I'm going with that is, all of a sudden you have emergencies happen and you figure stuff out. As a business, you create some shifts and it happens. All of a sudden I've got a thinned out herd and it happens. You go to the work, you go out there to the floor. All right. Who has to be here? Who doesn't have to be here? How can we rearrange that? And we figured that out. Mask. Do I have to wear it? Yes, you do. Are we going to have mandatory compliance? Then we have to make some decisions. Am I going to fire people for not wearing a mask? Well, I need you to wear a mask. Well, I had very well protected chins for a long time, but then I had a person who said, you know what? You can't make me wear a mask. I said, no, you got to wear a mask. Wear a mask. At least put it on. No, I refuse. I fired him. Right? We had to go down this line. Where I'm going is what are some changes? We had to get tough. We had to make some decisions we had never made before.
Yeah.
And we had to get tougher and tougher for the safety of this. And we had never been to this point before where we had to get to this point. But we had to create these safety blocks, but we also had to create a change in mind shift that it's not just about me, it's about we. It's not just about one person is independent and I can do whatever I want, because being family owned and family operated, it's kind of like, all right, we're all one family, kind of a dysfunctional family on occasion. we're a family. Well, that's Uncle Eddie over there, and Uncle Eddie's just kind of there. Well, because, and also, hey, business slowed down. All of a sudden we have, like everybody else in manufacturing, hey, business is kind of slow. Well, now all of a sudden, you know what, Uncle Eddie, we need you to come on into the fold. I don't really feel like it. You know what, Uncle Eddie, it's probably time that you're not part of the family anymore. We have to make some tough decisions. So understand. So this goes to another point. I learned long ago, never miss taking advantage of a good crisis.
It's true.
And so we were able to use this opportunity to streamline. We didn't lay off. Well, until recently, in December, we had a small one because we got to the end and it's just like, we can't cut it anymore. But as
Yeah.
people left, we just didn't fill those spots. As people were nearing retirement, we said, here's a little more money to get you over the edge. Let's go.
Hmm.
Anyway, we went down from, we went down quite a few people. But again, what happens though, to your question, we became more lean. We became streamlined. We found new ways to use our systems. People became more efficient at home. People became more productive at home. People became better, and we were able to figure some stuff out. People caught on that, hey, I've got to pick it up and perform better. And so here we are 10 months later. We're a different company than we were 10 months ago.
Mm.
And I would argue to say that we were better. To be honest, we got out of 2020 profitable.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
saying something this year.
yeah, we came out of it in the black.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I wonder if partially having that culture of innovation is helpful in times like this. Do you think that having employees and workers who are used to kind of innovating and coming up with solutions without a blueprint kind of helped you get through this time?
It did, and here's why. So 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago, we started to clarify our values. Right? We used to say, well, this is a Wagstaff value, and that's a Wagstaff value, but we didn't throw it on the wall, right? We talked about our family values as though we all knew what they were,
Mm,
but we didn't clarify what exactly are our values. And about a year and a half ago, said, so what are they? And we narrowed them down and we identified specifically 4 values, which are hard work, innovation, integrity, and quality. And so that started to settle in and resonate. And we had that up on printed. There you are. There are the 4 qualities. And it
mhm.
was able to resonate for several months before COVID hit.
Yeah.
Now, because we had those 4 things, we were able to actually harness those and say, here are our core 4. This is what we're focusing on. At the end of the day, hard work, quality, innovation, and integrity. That's what we're focused on, guys. And that's what we stuck to. And that actually is one of the things that got us through and helped us to be a better company. But with that focus, like I said, we're a different company today than we were a year ago.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting because, the challenge case question, if someone's taking this on, asks young people to think about, how would they design a manufacturing business that would be resilient under COVID-19. And I think when we came up with that question, we were thinking about like, okay, like more ventilation and more masks. But I really want to key in on this for folks that might be listening, that one of the things, and not just for manufacturing, but I think for any company, is having a good sense of your company values. And I love that, that was an important piece of this, because it affects, I think it has a bigger effect on people's behavior in times of crisis than any, HR policy or like written rule is, do they, or does everyone have a shared understanding of what we're all about and what we're all here to do?
When it comes down to things like PPE, right, personal protective equipment, and you're talking about ventilation, and you're talking about that kind of stuff, that's just stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you have it in place, people may comply or they may not comply. I mean, you
Yeah,
see it every time that you go to the store, right? Some
sure.
people will have it, some people don't. Like if I'm here in Spokane and I go around and you don't have a mask on, you're treated like a criminal, right? Bruce Willis gets called out on national news yesterday because he didn't wear a mask in Rite Aid. Oh my gosh. But if I go over into Idaho, if I cross into Coeur d'Alene and you do wear a mask, you get treated like you're a criminal because you're one of them, huh? Because you're wearing a
Mm,
mask. So again, it's still politicized. PPE is PPE. Yeah, we enforced the mask, right? But here's what it took, right? Over course of several months, what really got us over the edge to really enforce the mask was this 1 3-week period of time where I eventually had to send 60 people home
oof.
because they either had it or they were exposed.
Yeah,
And that took down production for a big chunk. All right, then we started to get serious about it. And then we
yeah,
knock it off. You wear the masks.
right.
And so, but it took an evolution to say, and they said, well, I don't like the mask. And we said, we don't care. It's the Costco philosophy, right?
Yeah,
We really don't care. If you want to shop here, you gotta wear the mask. And
Yeah.
we're saying, we don't care. You want to work here? You're going to wear the mask. We don't care. And that's where we had to get to. So this stuff like more ventilation and 6 feet apart and all that kind of stuff, that's fine. But people are still people.
Hmm.
People are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to violate the rules. They're going to push the envelope. They're going to do what they do. Can't fix that. You can't stop that. You can't control that. You can install more, whatever. That's great. Values drive what's okay and what's not okay.
Yeah.
Values drive beliefs. Values drive behavior.
Absolutely. That's great. Well, I think that's a great note to end on, is just that importance of values. And Wade, I know you've got work to get back to, so I'll let you go. But thank you so much for taking the time. This is a great conversation.
Yeah.
We're really excited. For folks that are watching, just a reminder that we're accepting projects for the State of Innovation Challenge until March 4th, and you can go to innovationwa.com to learn more about the project. And Wade, thank you again so much. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it. Really excited about having Wagstaff's partnership on this, and best of luck for the next 10 months.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate you letting me come on board and talk a little bit, and happy to help out.
Great. Thanks so much. See you later.
All right,
Bye.
thanks.